You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
In a world where film studios have pillaged every young adult novel, DC'd every comic book series, and Frankenstein every silver screen monster in search of the next movie mega franchise. Two nerds, two movies, one cinematic universe.
This is Randy, and I am joined on this episode by a guest. We have Jordan of the Movie Guys podcast. What's going on, Jordan?
What's going on, Randy? How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I'm excited to talk about these. One is a Christmas-related movie, and one is not. It's just related to the other movie.
Right?
So you are on the Movie Guys podcast. This actually, I mean, people have been podcasting for ages now, but it's actually kind of rare for me to come across somebody who's been at it for several years longer than I have. At this point, I think I'm right around 7 years total.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing Movie Guys, for one, and podcasting in general?
Well, it's 2019, so I started in 2009. It's been 10 years. I can't believe it. I'm 32 right now, so I started when I was 22. It's crazy, dude, how much the game has changed. I mean, I remember when I first did our episode, my brother and I first did our first podcast episode ever, and we didn't have any money, so we bought a $15 microphone at Walmart and just started to figure it out with Audacity. Everything else has changed, but we still use Audacity, right? I mean,
right?
Yeah, just been doing it for a long time, man. It's been fun. I love talking about movies with other people and hearing what the fans have to say.
Before we get into talking about little creatures running around, tell me a little bit about Movie Guys.
Movie Guys podcast is your new movie of the week show, but we have some flair here and there. We also do Netflix movies that are released, and we also have done interviews before in the past. We've interviewed people like Zach Ward, who played the redheaded bully from Christmas Story, Ted White from Friday the 13th, and so on and so forth. So we have interviews such as that as well, and we also have retrospective episodes. So sometimes, like for example, I believe it was last year, The Meg was coming out, and we had 2 weeks of no movies to review. So we created the Bad Shark movie series. So we had an episode of Sharknado and an episode of Deep Blue Sea leading up to The Meg. So it is an all-movie podcast. Yeah, that's definitely a show to check out, movieguyspodcast.podbean.com, and on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and iHeartRadio, and then also on EMC Podcast Network.
Awesome. All right, so part of the reason you're here now is because I really should have had you on our recent Friday the 13th special, part 2. We had arranged it, and it totally slipped my mind, so I apologize, but we will make good on that for part 3. But I was like, well, you know, if you're available, let's do this Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
So we will be discussing tonight Gremlins from 1984 and Critters from 1986. Now, the obvious Christmas connection is, Gremlins has a Christmas theme. People would debate whether, God, this is one of the movies. So everybody does the Die Hard, used to do the Die Hard, is this a Christmas movie debate? And I've gotten to that discussion with my girlfriend Melanie, who you can hear on the Grawlix podcast. I've gotten to that discussion with her several times because it makes her particularly angry for some reason. So I kind of can't help but do it. But she goes as far as to say, like, Gremlins isn't a Christmas movie because it's not about Christmas. Where do you fall in that respect? Because, I mean, it's so Christmas themed.
Melanie, I'm sorry, you're going to absolutely hate me for this, but Gremlins is a Christmas movie because Die Hard has nothing to do with Christmas either. Besides John McClane wanting to see his kids. Other than that, it takes place during Christmas. So does this. This is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
This is 100% a Christmas movie.
Yeah, exactly. It takes place during Christmas. Like,
it has to be. It has to be a Christmas movie.
Halloween isn't about Halloween, but it takes place on Halloween exclusively.
Right? That's why they call it Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, how many Silent Night, Deadly Night sequels did we have where it didn't take place on Christmas?
Right?
So, come on. No, Gremlins is definitely a Christmas movie for the monster horror fan. Definitely. This is definitely a Christmas movie.
I mean, it kicks off with a Christmas gift. Like, yeah. I mean, that pushes the whole plot along.
Right.
So this was a screenplay by Chris Columbus, directed by Joe Dante, starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Hoyt Axton, Francis Lee McCain, Corey Feldman. Come on, there's some other notable people. Where are they at? Dick Miller, that's one of the other ones I definitely wanted to hit. Judge Reinhold for a moment, just in case you forgot this was one of the most 80s movies.
This came out in 84, right?
Yes, 84.
Corey Feldman had a busy year because also that year, going to your Friday the 13th, Corey Feldman also did the Friday the 13th Final Chapter movie as well.
God, if we hadn't have packaged in the special this and Friday the 13th Part 4 would have been a ridiculous pairing.
Oh, it would have been.
Overview. When Billy Peltzer is given a strange but adorable pet named Gizmo for Christmas, he inadvertently breaks the 3 important rules of caring for a mogwai and unleashes a horde of mischievous gremlins on a small town. Okay, Gremlins. I feel like we're both at the right age that this is, I mean, at least in my mind, this is classic. This is a classic movie.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan, what did you think of Gremlins? I'm assuming you'd seen this before, but because I always start reviews this way, had you seen this before? What were your initial impressions?
It's because of Critters I saw Gremlins, and it's because of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I saw Critters, which led me into Gremlins. That is a rabbit hole we'll go down later in the show. Yes, I've seen Gremlins. This movie is part of my childhood. I haven't seen it recently as an adult in a very long time, so to prepare for the show, I definitely wanted to get as much as I could. But yes, I have seen Gremlins.
I'm fascinated that you have the chain of events because I don't know. I can't say that one led me to another. Gremlins was, I don't even remember the first time I watched it. I've always known Gremlins, but it's also one that got played on TV a lot. And that's something that I'll definitely touch on during Critters because that's how I know Critters. It got played like in the afternoons on the weekends on regular broadcast TV all the time.
I guess I might spoil it then if you don't mind me interrupting. I was a big Turtles fan growing up in the 90s. And Raphael in the first Turtles movie came out of the movie theater and there was a poster and he was seeing Critters.
Oh my God, you're right.
And I said to my dad when I was seeing the movie, I was like, what's that? Is that a real movie? He goes, oh, yeah, I'll show it to you. She showed me Critters. And then I was like, whoa, this isn't what I thought. This is not that great. And then he was like, well, there's this other movie called Gremlins. Critters is kind of like a ripoff of Gremlins. Because that's what he told me. He said Critters was like a ripoff of Gremlins. I was like, what's Gremlins? And he showed me that. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is great. So because of Turtles, led me to Critters, led me to Gremlins.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. The original Turtles movie was great.
Isn't it, though?
That's totally beside the point. But no, yeah, you're right. I knew Critters before Turtles then because I always recognized that poster as like, he go see Critters? Anyway, I don't know when I first seen it. It came out in 84. I don't know how long before it actually hit TV. But, I was born in 82. So it's just always been around. And I enjoy this movie quite a bit.
Well, the movie theater scene in Gremlins was really fun. I mean, that's definitely iconic, right? The movie theater scene where they're all chimping on popcorn and everything. I cannot imagine a more fun scene in this movie. That's a good word to say than this movie theater scene. I thought that was the perfect scene for this. It sets everything up for me to where it's like, okay, these things are funny. These things are crazy. These things are scary. Everything leading up to that was great. But of course, just like Home Alone, you're there to see the sticky bandits or the wet bandits, as the first one, get completely destroyed and wrecked. And that's what you want to see in Gremlins because we get Gremlins falling into blenders and flying off of ceiling fans. It's great stuff. That's what you want to see in a Gremlins movie, right?
The tone of this movie is insane because, famously this was initially supposed to be a much darker, more straightforward horror movie thing. I believe originally the mother was supposed to get killed off and stuff like that, which would definitely fundamentally change the tone of this movie.
Sure.
But also, it's kind of prime Joe Dante doing his weird kind of visual gags. There's a lot of moments. So they really focus a lot on the father being this failed, wacky inventor. Some of the humor there is kind of lame. Most of the humor there is kind of lame, but whatever, it's an ongoing gag. There is some humorous stuff where, just to touch on what I mean with like the visual gags, to where he's off away at a convention and he calls, and in the back you got like Robbie the robot wandering around, and you've got the guy in the time machine from the like classic H.G. Wells time machine movie from back in the day sitting behind him. And it cuts away, and when it cuts back, the guy and the time machine has disappeared, and there people are like scoping it out, like, where'd he go? So like just goofy little things like that. And the movie's kind of full of little stuff like that.
The dad reminded me of Tommy Pickles' dad from the Rugrats.
Okay, yeah.
The crazy inventor in the basement trying to do the wacky, crazy stuff to try to make a buck. He kind of reminded me of him.
I don't understand why he gets the narration in the opening and closing of the movie. Why does the dad get the narration?
I don't think there should be any narration. I actually think that was a mistake of the movie. There's no reason to do that, but of course that is Chris Columbus's writing, which I am not a Chris Columbus fan. Have you seen Harry Potter 1 and 2?
Yeah, it is not necessary. Most times in most movies, narration is a mistake. But like he's not even in most of the movie, the dad.
No, he's not. Yeah, like I mean, this is not the dad's point of view.
So, listener, before this podcast, this is the first time me and Jordan have actually talked, quote unquote, in person from voice to voice. We spent about an hour just talking about whatever stuff that you'll never hear. But we did talk a little bit about like woke movies and stuff like that. So I've got to ask then, this movie racist?
It is racist in 2019, sure. In 1983, 84, no.
Yeah, I mean, compared to a lot of other 80s movies, like even after this, it is pretty tame.
It's pretty tame.
But it's a little weird now. But it's not, like, really, a change of clothes would kind of fix it.
Right? I mean, I was expecting the gong to go in the background.
They did do a little, it was minor, but they did a little thing when the father says something like he's in the shop at the beginning and he says something about dragon, and there's a little gong sound, and he looks down, there's a little dragon statue, and I was like, that's just kind of a lame joke. Like, maybe a little racist, but as a joke anyway, it's pretty lame.
Sure. To me personally, as an individual, just my personal opinion, I don't think it's racist. I just think it's just what the story is, but definitely in 2019 bleeding into 2020. This is a big no. But I didn't have a problem with it. It is setting up the world that these characters are going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point of a movie, right? A movie is not supposed to be. I know there's a lot of Christopher Nolan fans out there that think that it's okay to make your superheroes and your fantasy characters realistic, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But the psycho clown is not real. I just want to hit that home. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's just a story. Heath Ledger was great as Joker. I'm not knocking that movie at all. I love that movie. I love The Dark Knight. But this is a story. Just go with the story. It's a movie. It's fake. It's entertaining. So the China guy is a little stereotypical. They also wore short shorts back then too. What do you want me to do?
Nobody's perfect, right? They also wore. I loved your man. I think we got a lot of interesting little like insight into like just your opinions and tastes there. That was fun. I always, and we've covered, just because I think it's because of my personal taste, we've covered a lot of like 80s movies on the show.
Sure.
And I don't know why, but I do always fixate on these things. I'm like, so what this movie a little racist? Because, man, the 80s, there were a lot of movies in the 80s that were a little racist, but I feel like on the spectrum, this is definitely towards the less offensive side of things. It's not that bad.
We're talking about don't feed a little furry monster and don't get him wet past midnight. And then if you do that, there's going to grow hellish little monsters. How realistic do you want to go here?
Now, it's been ages since I've watched the second one. We're not going to talk about the second Gremlins.
I have never seen it.
Really?
I refuse to because I know so much about it, and I think Hulk Hogan's in the second one.
Dude, the second one is bananas, but it's one of those cases where it's like, I think Joe Dante come back, and he didn't want to. He didn't want no part of it, and finally caved because they essentially is like, well, you can do whatever you want, and so it was one of those where it's like, I'm just gonna ruin this franchise. But
and he did.
But like, there's some fun to it too. Like the second one, they call out the plot holes of the first one to where you're not supposed to feed them after midnight, and somebody's like, what time zone? It's after midnight somewhere all the time. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah,
that's really funny. I like that.
The second one is intentionally super meta and doesn't care because the filmmakers didn't care. But anyway, so yeah, the rules are silly, but like it does work in that this is definitely a fantasy thing. I do like the playing on the World War II thing of gremlins, like the gremlins get in your planes and ruin your planes and ruin your equipment and stuff like that. Just the fact, the setup of like, so you've got the ridiculously cute Gizmo, this Mogwai, and he's not a bad dude, but like anything that spawns from him when he gets wet are evil little monsters right from the get-go, even when they're still cute and fuzzy. So like it establishes this, like, really, what are gremlins? What is Gizmo then? And why is he different? It's kind of interesting. It's weird lore that it sets up, but it's not like over-explained at all. And I think that works because the point is like, we want cute creatures and then we want disgusting, ridiculous gremlin creatures. So here's how we make it happen. And they kind of created a fun concept around it.
I mean, like, would you say that Gizmo would be like the first Pokemon then? You know, because he's this cute fuzzy little Pikachu, and then, you know, like, you piss it off or something happens, and then he starts spawning off these other little Pokemon, and then all of a sudden you got these pocket monsters running around, and you're trying to catch them all to stop them, right?
Right, you're right.
I'm just saying. But one's Japanese, one's Chinese, so there's the difference.
Just, you know, minor cultural differences there.
Yeah, just minor.
Just minor.
They're totally not the same. Right?
They're not the same.
No. Gizmo, by the way, what a great name.
Gizmo was kind of genius from the get-go. I love the design of him. I like the puppetry, the animatronics. It's a little weird. There's something about the movement of his eyes and stuff that always kind of weird me out, even though, like, it's still super cute because it's a super cute little puppet, cute design. But yeah, Mogwai, Gizmo, the naming is great, and like the singing, the sounds he makes, such a good design overall for a creature.
So 80s.
Yes.
So 80s. Gizmo, it does like this little humming little, I'm not going to even attempt to create it, but yeah, just totally 80s. This world I like, and it's because it's Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg produced this movie.
Yeah, so. Was this actually Amblin, like, released through Amblin Entertainment, because it's got that feel?
I mean, as far as I know, it is. I mean, that's why I'm a big fan of Stranger Things, right? It's like if Stephen King and Steven Spielberg had a baby, that's what Stranger Things would be.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the PG version of that. You know, if those two were combined and have a baby, that's what Gremlins would be.
It's interesting because, okay, so it still has that feel. It's got a little of that weird kind of like amped up extra. It's cartoony. It's got elements of just straight up live action cartoon in its tone, the way the characters behave sometimes, the music. And I think a lot of that came from Joe Dante, kind of goofy, whimsy in a way that would, in a lot of things, kind of turn me off of it. But Dante has an interesting mix, can balance an interesting mix of things with, like, so there's that with comically over the top dark stuff, like with everything involving Phoebe Cates' character. Like at one point where she's talking about, like, you know, this is a really depressing time of year for some people. While some people are opening presents, other people are opening their wrists. It's like, whoa, what? So
yeah, there's some dark humor on that one.
Yeah, and her whole story, but that's super memorable, and it's playing well with it's all comedy, but playing well with the kind of goofy, over the top comedy, a little slapsticky, with just very dark comedy.
Well, I mean, like, you can't make this serious, right? I think that was a good choice of the creators of the film to make it more of a slapstick, Looney Tunes-ish, dark humor kind of film, right? Because if you make this seriously, this won't work, a la Critters.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when I think it could be toned down in a little of the goofiness, but no, you can't make it serious because then it'll just kind of be like it'd get real dull real fast. Like, part of the charm and the appeal and what keeps this interesting is that it is kind of goofy, but it's just dark enough. It still feels like there could be stakes because characters do get killed off.
They would have to make the Gremlins like really hardcore bloodthirsty to make this serious. Where it's like the Gremlins have to eat human flesh for some reason to continue to live. Kind of like a zombie kind of thing or something. I mean, like, there's just no way they can make this serious. And the tone of this movie, I think they hit it on the head. That's why this movie is so successful compared to the second one. That's why this movie is so loved compared to the second one, because this movie did everything right, which the second one didn't.
I'll probably have cut it out of the final mix, but I struggled a little bit to like really formulate my thoughts on this recent watch, because I actually had watched it not long ago, but I do remember watching it a couple years ago, and when the bar scene came, the big bar scene, which first note I love is that Phoebe Cates' character is still just serving them. Like, it's a bar full of gremlins, and somehow she's stuck in the situation where she's serving them drinks. I kind of love that touch. But initially, during my rewatch a few years ago, I was like, dude, I don't know, man. This bar scene, it might be a bit much. Like, it's super ridiculous. But this last watch, I just watched it a couple days ago, it kind of works because pretty early on, it establishes that the gremlins are kind of working on their own cartoon. Like, the movie has a cartoon logic to it, because the gremlins will show up with wardrobe and props that, like, they shouldn't have that stuff. Like, why are they in these outfits? Like, they show up as carolers and they've got the earmuffs and the little whatever song booklets that they sing out of. It's like, what? Why? And it's because it's funny. That's why. And I don't know. So, like, if you can accept it on that kind of, on the gremlins logic, it works. And that bar scene is fun and ridiculous. You mentioned something about them. If they were just bloodthirsty creatures, it wouldn't be the same. It'd be boring. I feel like they are bloodthirsty creatures, but the bloodthirsty is a secondary thing. Just like, yeah, no, we'll kill people, but we're gonna wreck up this bar first and have fun and have some drinks. And this guy is over there going to be doing like a film noir, moody detective in the corner bit for no reason. Like, so, you know, whatever.
What if I go crazy and say I do a college thesis paper that the gremlins are actually our society trying to go back to our Neanderthal ways of just going crazy? Because now, the reason I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to get philosophical here, but the basic need for man, which includes women, but man, is mate, feed, sleep, repeat, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what they do. I mean, like, isn't there a prostitute gremlin in this?
I think so. I know there's definitely a flasher.
Why? Gremlins don't have breasts, but we're going to go with this because, right? So they go to a bar, they drink, they get crazy, they have fun. One dresses as a prostitute. They're bloodthirsty, you know, because that's what man does, right? And it's absolutely interesting to think about that aspect of what these gremlins are, because these gremlins have no moral sense at all.
Yeah.
I think that's why we as an audience love this movie, because maybe, and this is where the college theses come in, maybe we wish that we were like the gremlins and just letting our hair down, so to speak, and go out and just create absolute havoc. There's a time and place for that, people. I know. I lived it. It's called a fraternity. You like that, didn't you?
I did. I like that quite a bit. I like that. I don't know how to follow it up, to be honest.
No. I mean, nobody does.
That's a showstopper.
That definitely is a showstopper. Oh my God, the fraternity days. Yes, I was in a fraternity. Yes, blah blah blah, all that fun stuff. It was fun. Greatest 4 years of my life. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I'm a dad and a husband now, and I'm a podcast host. So there we go. But it is a very interesting way to think about it, though, right? It's very interesting to think about, you know, what would you do, right? What if what if you were omnipotent for the day and you could do whatever the hell you wanted to do? Would you do something totally as different as these gremlins, or would you not? Would you go to a bar and be completely fucking wasted? Would you fall into a blender and see what would happen? Would you see a prostitute gremlin? I mean, what would you do? There'd be so many different things to think about.
Would you see a prostitute gremlin?
Why not? I mean, have you seen downtown Toledo? I'm just saying.
One thing I kind of keyed into, so I really like the structure of this. It's a very satisfying plot in how it unfolds, how it happens. Once we kind of build into the climax, I kind of like it. It's very convenient. Also very strange that Snow White is the movie that they're all drawn to, the Gremlins that is. But it's convenient that they all lock themselves into this building that they can burn down and then just have to deal with the one gremlin again. However, something I noticed this wash through that hadn't occurred to me is like, even though it's in this one small town, it's kind of like that typical, I say typical, that sounds negative, but classic like horror convention of like, it's just this kind of barrage on this small town America. But when Billy is out looking for the Mohawk gremlin that escaped, he's got Gizmo sticking out of his backpack, and he's got a sword, and he's like wandering around town with a sword looking for the monster to vanquish. And I'm like, this is fun. This is an adventure. I've been playing a lot of Skyrim lately, and I want a Gremlin Skyrim playthrough now. That little minor element of like, let's give him a sword as his weapon to go hunt down this gremlin adds to the fun, adds to this adventurous 80s ridiculous movie feel, and I appreciated that.
Every issue was solved by a sword, and I'm so happy that you said you're playing Skyrim, because I'm playing both that and Fallout 76.
Oh, are you?
So, yeah.
I've been on a big Skyrim. We don't have to get too far into it. I have not played 76. I don't know. Eventually I might. I don't know.
It's not bad. People are overreacting. They have fixed the issues. It's great. I have a great time playing with my friends. It's fine. But a sword solves all your problems. King Arthur. Do I say more?
All right. So, what's your favorite aspect of this? It could be character, or just part of the, scene, or just general theme of the movie. What's one of your favorite things from this movie?
I think it's the destruction, honestly. The reason why I like the destruction is, again, just like I said with Home Alone. I mean, like, Home Alone, really think about this for a second, and this kind of goes along with Gremlins. Home Alone is a very boring movie until the wet bandits come in at the end. And then, like, that last 15 minutes is just a roller coaster ride of fun. It's kind of what Gremlins is in a way, if you really think about it. It's entertaining, it's fun, but really nothing happens until the Gremlins start getting loose in the town and start creating havoc. And that's when I have fun. And I don't know the best way to explain it besides that what I take from it is my favorite part is just overall seeing them get into mischief, because it's fun to see these little critters do crazy things. And that's my favorite part. Screw the human characters. Screw the dad narration. Screw it all, right? Just give me a movie with just gremlins doing their gremlin things. I'm happy. I'm good. Gizmo's cool. I just like the creatures. I think it's a great design. And that's what my favorite part of this movie is.
Man, I don't know. I like a lot about this movie. I think the Gremlins mischief is fun. The other stuff that is there, though, I do enjoy. I enjoy it quite a bit. I feel like some of the kind of cheesy, cartoony humor is a little much at times. They could scale it back, but it's fine. It doesn't kill it for me. It's got a good mix of dark comedy to balance out that kind of goofy comedy. It's got 80s, Phoebe Cates. That's a plus for any movie.
Any movie.
It's got a good cast, actually. This has got like a classic 80s fun movie cast. And it moves along pretty quick. Like, you're right, it kind of takes a while before things happen, but it's got enough with Gizmo. What kind of pet talks? Everybody should be just mind blown by this creature. Anyway.
I mean, would you, though? I mean, like, if my dog said, "Hey, how you doing, Jordan?" I'd be like, "What? Kill it! Shoot it now!"
And then start playing the piano. It plays piano. Like,
I come home and the dog's playing the piano. I'm gonna freak out.
And watching TV and going vroom vroom. I'd be like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Just with this pet anymore.
I'm gonna get my gun. I'm sorry, but these people make no sense. But that's okay, because like we said in the beginning of this episode, It's the world, people. It's not real. It's the world that they're building for you to have a good time.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's move on to star ratings. Do you have a star rating for this? Out of 5?
Oh, 4. 4, I think, is a good average one for this one. This one's fine. My daughter's 3, so I think 3 more years from now, when she's 6, I think this would be something fun for her to see.
Oh, that's something I wanted to ask. And I do also appreciate that this is fairly family friendly, but also it's not afraid to go dark. And the violence, there's not a whole lot of violence against humans, but there's definitely a lot of violence against gremlins. And I feel like there's a lot of also like kind of adult jokes, but I feel like they're the kind of adult jokes that they might have thrown into Tiny Toons or some of the older Looney Tunes, to where like a lot of it'll kind of fly over kids' heads, so it's probably okay. But how do you feel like as a kids movie? Is this too adult for a kids movie, or is this appropriate?
Now, see, now you're asking to bring my fatherhood in me here.
Better you than I don't have kids, and so I figured, hey, I have somebody on who can actually maybe answer this. Your opinion, of course. Like, I understand you can't speak for everybody.
6, 7, I think, is okay.
Okay.
I based this off of when I I saw The Shining when I was 8 or 9, and that was a bad decision. Jaws scared the out of me too. I think I was 6, 7 years old when I saw Jaws. So I hope my daughter, I don't know. I mean, because the thing is that because I saw Jaws when I was 6, 7 years old, and I saw Robert Shaw get bit in half by the shark, and that didn't traumatize me. So I don't know. It's like, it's weird because every single person is different.
Yeah.
Trying to understand and wrap your mind around. I know this sounds absolutely crazy and bonkers, but try to wrap your mind around that your child's a person is like crazy, right? Because she like depends on you, right? Or like your son depends on you. So it's like actually having them have their own opinions and thoughts and stuff is like, oh, I'm not ready for this yet.
Yeah.
So no, I mean 6 or 7, because I have her watch The Simpsons with me right now, and that's nothing bad. I think the violence towards the gremlins could be a little severe towards for her right now, but then also it'd be like, well, these are puppets, these are like stuffed animals, it's just fun. But then again, she could put a stuffed animal in a blender after that. So yeah, I don't know, man.
That microwave scene is still super hardcore.
Yeah, right.
It gets me a little bit every time. I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, I know it's a gremlin, it's green blood and all that, but still, whoa.
Because my daughter's name is Riley. So, Riley, what are you doing? I'm just putting my stuffed animal in the microwave, Daddy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
6, 7, I think will be okay for kids. I think. I don't know. My opinion will change next week. It all depends. Being a father is up and down, man.
It's fluid, man. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm going to go. So previously, I was looking up on my Letterboxd thing. I don't remember when it is I last logged this, but previously I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm actually going to bump that down to just 4, just because I enjoyed it. I think it's classic. This rewatch, it did feel a little long at parts. Not as bad as the next movie. That movie kind of felt long, way longer, but 4 feels right. 4 is a good, solid rating for all the reasons I said, so I'm not going to rehash it like I usually do. Yeah.
Difference of opinion of going to the 4, but we're overall agreeing to 4.
I think that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. You went left, I went right, but we met in the middle. It's fine. We got along.
Next.
Critters is in the same ballpark as Leprechaun.
You think so? Interesting. Okay. Interestingly enough, after rewatching this, just yesterday, I got on a kick of not actually watching Leprechaun movies. We just watched Leprechaun 4 in space for a recent episode.
Was that your first time?
Yes. It was.
That was your first time.
My first time watching that one. I've seen some of the other Leprechauns, but it was.
How was that?
It's not good. It's not good at all.
That's not good.
But I couldn't think of a better movie to pair with Jason X. And I had to fit Jason X in here so that we could eventually hit almost every Friday the 13th this season.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's going to happen. Also, it was supposed to be torture for Jasper, my regular co-host, who has conveniently taken a break from the show starting just before that episode. And I was like, huh. I wonder why.
Well, here we go. Here's the little thing for Jasper, you said?
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to torture that guy, why don't you show him Hellraiser Bloodline, I think? It's Hellraiser in space.
Oh, God. I feel like I've seen that one.
And that's far worse than Leprechaun 4. Yes, it's far worse.
I feel like I've seen that one. Is that the one where it's like Bloodline, where it's got like the family history of the guy that made the box?
Pretty much, and it's somehow in space, and anyway.
Yeah, it's not good, dude.
Yeah, no. It's
Ooh,
bad.
the Hellraiser series goes to bad places.
It goes to bad places after the first one. Number 2 is just anyway.
Yeah.
Critters. Yeah, no, I mean, dude, Critters is shit, dude.
Critters from 1986. Screenplay and story by Dominic Murr, and also screenplay credit and director Stephen Herrick.
Oh my God.
This has some people, man. Talk about some like 80s classic actors. This has Dee Wallace of E.T. fame, like the year before this. Wow. How? Emmett Walsh, who's the greatest. Billy Green Bush, Scott Grimes, Nadine Van der Velde, Billy Zane. Yeah.
Billy Zane here.
Billy Zane, yeah. So, whatever. It's got some people. Overview. A massive ball of furry creatures from another world eat their way through a small Midwestern town. That's not totally accurate. They didn't really get into the town. Followed by intergalactic bounty hunters opposed only by militant townspeople.
Do you know why, when you said the director, I went, oh my God, for?
Why?
Do you know this guy's filmography?
I don't.
You don't know?
I'm looking right now. Oh, God, I'm looking now.
Oh, no. I didn't have to look because I know this prick. This guy does Critters, and then he does Bill and Ted's. Then he does Mr. Holland's Opus. What? And then it Three Musketeers.
Dude, it is all over the place.
It's all over the place.
And he's still working.
How do you go from Critters to Mr. Holland's Opus with Richard Dreyfuss?
Three Musketeers, Mr. Holland's Opus. Okay, yeah. No. Oh, my God. Okay. I'm so glad you brought this up because I had not even looked, and this is amazing. So, first director credit, Critters, then Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, The Gifted One, I don't know what that is offhand, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
That's an 80s classic.
Oh, my God. The Mighty Ducks, The Three Musketeers, Mr. Holland's Opus, because I guess he wanted to do some Oscar bait.
No. Mr. Holland's Opus because he did Mighty Ducks, which is a good family-friendly movie. And he showed that he could have, some drama, some weight,
Holy Man.
Yeah.
2001, he did Rockstar. I think that was that thing with Mark Wahlberg.
That movie's actually really terrible, but fun.
I've never watched it.
You need to.
Yeah, and then it continues on a bunch of stuff. Some of it starts to get really strange, and some TV, stuff like that. Apparently he's got something same time next Christmas came out this year. I don't know what that is.
But anyway, Critters, complete blatant ripoff, right, of Gremlins. The only difference is these creatures are from space.
I find it interesting. So supposedly the script was written before Gremlins was released.
Sure it was.
Now, I would kind of believe it, but I think the movie that was ultimately produced is vastly different because Gremlins came out. I'm going to guess.
Maybe.
I'm going to guess the critters weren't as critter-like originally. But yeah, they even have a similar scene with the critters interacting with the E.T. doll. But of course, this is Critters, so they got to go one up and have one of the critters bite the head off the E.T. doll.
Right. I mean, this Gremlins was your PG-13, monster little movie. This is your rated R version, right? I mean, to me, there is no difference between this and Gremlins. This is the difference. The only difference between these two is that one's just really, really fun and entertaining, and one's just like the Blob remake from the 80s. It's like, what are you doing?
I do want to correct something I said. I said Dee Wallace was in E.T. the year before. I don't know what I was thinking because this came out in 86 and E.T. was 82. But whatever.
Do you know where I first saw Dee Wallace from? It wasn't E.T.
No.
You are either, Randy, a Howling fan or an American Werewolf in London fan. And those two movies came out the same exact year. And Dee Wallace was in The Howling. And I'm a Howling fan.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I'm definitely a Howling fan. I think the story had more weight to it. But one's a classic and one's not. So I guess my opinion means
The Howling isn't, well, okay, maybe it's not as big of a classic. I always kind of thought The Howling was a classic.
It is what it is, but Dee Wallace was in that. Dee Wallace is like, especially in this movie, she's definitely your poor man's older Aunt Jamie Lee Curtis.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, like, Dee Wallace is cool. Love Dee Wallace. She's fun. She's in a lot of stupid camp horror movies, which is always fun to see her in it. You know, but she's like the drunk aunt that comes over for Christmas. It's like, I don't really want you here, but you're here, so I'm going to enjoy the show.
But you're here, so there's not much I could do about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, your family, so I'm going to watch you. That's fine. Dee Wallace, it's like, I haven't seen this movie. Oh, my God. I haven't seen this movie since I was a teenager. And when you told me you wanted to do Critters, I was like, how the am I going to find this thing?
I'm curious as to where did you come across this then?
Just rented it on Amazon Prime for a couple bucks.
Okay, I'm sorry I had you I put you in a situation to have to pay for it then.
Oh, it's a couple of bucks. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's fine. I have it for 2 more hours. So,
So we need to hurry up and wrap this up so you can get that other viewing in. Get your money's worth.
Gotta get that second viewing, and maybe my opinion will change. But no, I mean, like, Dee Wallace is fun. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I just want to make it clear that I love Dee Wallace in these movies, in these kind of movies. It's fun. But then again, it's like, what are you doing here? You did E.T. Why are you doing Critters?
So initial impressions, you love this movie, I could tell.
I do, actually. What I mean by that is that by no means am I saying this movie is great or terrible. It's just this movie is what it is. That's why I said in the beginning of my review that this is in the same ballpark of Leprechaun. You know what you're going to get when you time into it. I mean, like, you put in Piranha, the remake, as an example, you know what you're going to get. So when I put in Gremlins, I know I'm going to get fun 80s monster critter movie. When I put in Critters, I'm going to get a Leprechaun. I'm going to get Child's Play 2. I'm going to get and I enjoy it. It's fine. It's fine. It's just not great, but it's fine.
It had been ages since I'd watched any of the Critters movies. And first thing to note is I think that a lot of people, Critters and Critters 2 both got ran on TV back in the day a lot. So I have a feeling a lot of people kind of think of like, yeah, kind of B grade, cheesy, but fun. And I feel like the fun that people think of is Critters 2. Not that there's no fun in this movie, but this movie, like, upon this rewatch, I was surprised that I was like, this plays it a lot more straight, not completely, but a lot more straight and kind of dull. It's a lot slower than I remember.
Right. The ball thing didn't come into play as much as the second one did.
Yeah, like they roll around on the ground, which I think is a cool conceit, but them coming together as a giant deadly ball, that's part 2 for sure.
Right. And of course, that's what you know it as.
Yeah.
It's like Jason getting the mask until part 3.
The whole premise of this movie is very strange because it starts in space with ridiculous space creatures, alien races, and these bounty hunters, and they're after this ship of because what the critters. So they're, on the one hand, they're like gremlins. They're like these little furry monster things that are still like sentient enough to like they communicate with each other. But also, they're fugitives that hijacked a spaceship and came to Earth. It's just such a weird conceit.
Why not?
I have a feeling that the bounty hunters were a bigger focus of the script before Gremlins happened.
Oh, no. Yes. 100% agree with you.
And I enjoy, there's definitely cheese there, but I enjoy the bounty hunter thing. I like the idea of bounty hunters that are essentially shapeshifters. It's used weirdly, but I kind of like it. That first transformation scene is horrifying. That is amazing kind of gory makeup effects they do to show how these bounty hunters transform into a person. But it's a mix of this weird space thing and 80s rural America horror movie thing. Combine those things together, and that's Critters. It's like, what? Okay.
Oh, so Alien versus Predator Requiem. Got it.
I never watched that one. After AVP, I was like, nope.
That is pretty much Critters.
Now, while Gremlins was produced by Spielberg, so there is that kind of Amblin feel, this movie feels like it really wants to be an Amblin movie. It's the right time period. It's got that certain kind of wholesome, slightly hokey feel to the family. There's like innocent family hijinks and like kid riding around on his bike. It's got that feel, but like also you can still kind of tell this is off-brand Emblem.
No, this is total ripoff, right? This is the what's the production company? Asylum. You had Transformers coming out, and then they came out with Transmorphers. Yeah, it's the same thing. This is a poor man's attempt to make Gremlins. This really is. It is. It is.
I feel like it, and it's okay, but I mean, listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I feel like I'm a lot less down on this movie than you are, because I agree. Their attempt to really capture the feel of the Gremlins is that one montage where they're like ripping up the kid's bedroom. That's a pretty poor attempt to like capture the bar room scene in Gremlins. Like, it's not a question. There's no comparison there. At least they had the stuff that they added to this, like all the space stuff, is weird and so out of left field enough that it's like, well, they brought something different to the table. It's not just a pure Gremlins clone. There's this weird space thing. There's some humor. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But there's some humor with there we go, with the critters themselves. There's some humor with these space bounty hunters. So Gremlins had a lot of destruction. This movie's got some destruction, man. This movie has some explosions. I feel like this movie doesn't have the mayhem though. Like the Gremlins destruction was, you get a sense of they're just wreaking havoc. It's just mayhem. This destruction is just things blowing up. But it does that pretty well.
So it's Michael Bay produced. Got it.
Kind of. Dude, I had forgotten at the end. They blow up that house.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. No pun intended. It blew my mind because now it's so rare to see like any explosion that big in a movie that's done practically. They blew up a house and it was huge, and all that debris is real, and there's no particle systems. There's no, they didn't even do any compositing explosions. They just straight up blew up this huge house, and it's pretty impressive. And I'm going to guess a big chunk of their budget went to that.
And the other half was Dee Wallace.
And Dee Wallace, a little bit to M. Emmett Walsh. He's maybe not a huge name, but whatever. I know him. People got to be a fan of this guy. M. Emmett Walsh. Look him up. Watch his stuff. He's been in stuff you've seen, you know. Not always good. He was in Wild Wild West, all right? So it's not always good stuff, but...
Okay, so right there, right? Great example. Wild Wild West and Critters are the same ballpark. One's on the bench, one's starting, but it's the same ballpark. It's not good. It's really, really bad. And that's the thing is that I feel like I'm not really giving my opinion on this really good. It's not that I hate this movie, because I don't hate Critters. Is it the first movie that I think about to show my child when she gets older? No, I'm going to show her Gremlins. You know, am I going to show her Die Hard 2 or Die Hard? I'm going to show her Die Hard, right?
Well, with Vengeance in part 3?
Yeah, dude.
At least part 2 was still like, you know, it's still Die Hard. It's just Die Hard on a plane. And then part 3 is when it's like, okay.
I actually prefer Die Hard with a Vengeance over 2.
Really?
Yeah, I actually do. I actually find that one really interesting.
Maybe I'll have to revisit it. I think I saw With a Vengeance in the theaters when it was released, and
it's fun. It's fun.
I'll have to revisit it
because Rennie Harlan, who did the second movie, is not a good director. I don't care what anybody says. He's not a good director. I mean, the guy made Dream Master, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, and that's pretty shitty.
Wait. Which one? Oh, it's part 3 people like a lot. Right?
Well, part 1. Well,
no. I mean, part 1 is the good one.
Oh, you mean Nightmare?
Nightmare, yeah.
Everybody loves part 3, but actually, you know what? Controversial. I like part 2.
I like part 2 as well. I don't think it's good. It disappoints me as somebody who wanted to see like a proper Nightmare on Elm Street sequel that's not just totally ridiculous, but dude, it is its own thing, and it is amazing.
Well, it's its own thing because it's gay.
I mean, that's part of it. Like,
that's not part of it. It's not part of it. That's the whole movie.
That is the whole movie. But what I mean is, like, it also tried to go in a different direction with like how Freddy works.
Yeah,
he's possessing this guy to whatever, kind of take him over. But dude, the gay text, because it's not subtext, is amazing.
Oh no, I mean, like the blatant dancing in his bedroom and the camera pointing on his ass to put the drawer back into place. This is amazing. The line of "He's inside of me. He needs to get out."
Oh,
it's
I know.
just blatantly amazing, and that's what Critters needed. Critters needed something ridiculous because this movie can't be serious. And I think that the creators of this movie were trying to make it semi-serious, but then they have to realize we're not doing this. We're doing Nightmare on Elm Street 2. We got to go ridiculous. And that's where I think that where I'm not liking the movie that much, because you can't be serious with this concept. And I think there are two different movies here. I think you got somebody in the creative part of the movie that wants to make a serious space monster movie, but then you got everybody else that's like, yeah, but Nightmare on Elm Street 2, that's what we're gonna do, and it's really conflicting because you got that big house explosion at the end and makes you so adrenalized.
But then they followed up with a super hokey cheeseball like magical technology, puts their house back together, everything's fine. It's like, wait,
right?
What? No, just leave it with. And it's the house explosion, and then the fact that the critters blew up the house out of spite, because then it cuts to inside the ship, and one of the critters is like, hey, like a screw you type thing. And it's like, okay, that's fun, but then it then it
if
has
you're
that
gonna make
conflicting
camp,
tone.
make camp,
Yeah.
make camp, make it. I don't care, make it.
I think you're right. And I like this movie, but I feel like really, especially this watch, and again, it's been years since I had watched it last, what really drug it down for me was it just kind of gets dull, and I think it's from trying to play it too straight. And it does have that conflicting tone. Like the critters are kind of an interesting little movie monster. They're a combination of cute and I like their design a lot. They threw in that little extra, like they have the tranquilizer darts they can shoot out of their backs, but they're also goofy and talk to each other like gremlins. And, there's supposed to be comedy there. So they don't really, even with the characters, the creatures themselves, they don't embrace one way or the other. It's
Right.
kind of down the middle. And the movie is very much that. It's like you've got all the stuff with the bounty hunters is kind of goofy and campy, but then we bounce between them for a brief moment and then like back to a serious horror movie where these people are trapped in their house. And it's like it doesn't have enough hook to really be memorable in a way that Gremlins is. It needed to, probably embrace, like there's no way they could go the other way and make a really memorable dark horror movie out of this concept, so they really should have kind of embraced some of the camp, or at least figured out how to inject more fun into the otherwise not so enthralling parts. I do want to revisit the second one now, because I feel like the second one embraces the comedy and the camp a lot more, because this one of course ends with the critters are destroyed, but also there's some critter eggs left behind, so sequel. But I believe the sequel then, like, somebody found the critter eggs and painted them up for Easter. That right there should tell you the tone of the sequel. So,
And that's what this movie should have been.
yeah. I think they got it. Or, well, whoever did the second one, I think they kind of keyed into what maybe they should have focused on in this one.
Right?
The fun.
The camp,
Camp fun.
the ham, phoning it in, maybe.
Stop trying so hard. Just phone it in.
Just phone it in. Just there are Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff, which Sonic wasn't out yet, so I guess Sonic could be a ripoff of Critters. There you go. Sonic is a ripoff of Critters. You heard it first.
All right, let's do star ratings. I can't go too low on this. I'm gonna go 3 stars.
Wow.
I'm gonna go 3.
Alright.
Because I think it's not a bad. I think it's well made. I agree with you though. The problem areas. I agree with why the problem areas are what they are, and that causes the movie to lull. And it's slow. It does drag on a bit, but I think it's competently made, and it still hits that nostalgia bone for me. Like I'll admit it. Like, yeah, they ran this on TV all the time when I was a kid, so I'd watch this all the time. Also, I had mentioned to you in message before, like yesterday, before I had rewatched this, I was like, I don't think I've ever even seen this uncut. Doesn't matter. It's PG-13.
Oh, is this? I didn't even notice.
It is a little extreme for PG-13 in terms of blood, because like the dad gets chewed all up. But
Yeah.
no, I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. Yeah, it's not that. It's not that extreme.
You can tell how much I pay to rating systems. I can't even tell you the last time I even paid attention to a rating system. Wow. Wow, really? PG-13?
Yeah, I was surprised. You know what? Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure.
How about this? Just for the sake of me being difficult, let's just say I'm going to say it's R, just for fun.
No, PG-13.
Wow.
Which does surprise me a little bit,
Yeah.
just because of the blood.
Yeah.
There's some wounds on the characters that are pretty gnarly, and there are lots of critter explosions, but they do kind of the Gremlins thing. It's green blood.
So that's okay then.
It's an easy way to get around that. Yeah.
3 stars. Wow.
What do you got? I figured that'd be high, given your kind of rant about it.
1.
Whoa! See, you keep saying this is on level with Leprechaun, and I would expect a 1-star movie to be on level with Leprechaun. But for me, the various Leprechaun movies that I've seen have so many cringy, eye-rolling, off-putting things where I'm like, that's what really makes Leprechaun terrible for me. This doesn't have anything that really puts me off. It's just a little dull, which could be a bad thing, but I think it's still got enough working for it. But I don't need to justify my rating. 1 star. So, all right. Okay.
1 star because of whatever he said. It is, they don't know the movie that they want to make. If you're going to give me shitty camp movie, then give me a shitty camp movie and I'll give you a 5-star rating because I'm going with you on that ride. But if you're going to give me, oh, these things are vicious and they're going to give me serious wounds and they're going to eat my face, but then also, we got, hey, we're going to blow up your house and then we're going to bring, it's crazy. It's nonsense. And the movie doesn't know what it wants to do. You're either or for me. In this version, you're black and white. Either you are this or you are that. And because you didn't want to be this or that, I cannot go along with you on this ride. I just can't. You have lost me because I'm confused as the audience of what you're trying to tell me. With Gremlins, I knew an exact tone and how you wanted me to watch this movie, and I appreciated you for it. But with this one, it is up and down, and it doesn't make any sense. So for that, it's not a good movie, because a good movie is overall production and great directing for what they do, right? So this is 1 star. It's just not good.
I love it. All right. Awesome. Dude,
I hope my analogies worked out for you.
No, it's great. And honestly, like, we do a lot of good movies and we do a lot of like almost objectively bad movies on the show. So there's not usually that big of a split in ratings. So I'm all for it. I like it. Difference of opinions. That's great.
Well, I'm always known as the jerk of movie guys, right? I have to give it like shit ratings because we have something on Movie Guys podcast called the popcorn rating. So what that is that it's a small bag, a medium bag, or a large bag. It's pretty self-explanatory how that goes, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm the asshole that gave A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood a small bag. I didn't think it was good.
Interesting.
But my other 2 co-hosts were like, oh, no, this is great. You're stupid. And I'm like, well, no, Tom Hanks is good, but other than that, it was kind of
Well, I mean, okay, so if I had somebody on the show all the time that was like obviously just giving out contrarian ratings, that would get annoying. But I don't feel like that's the case here because not that any of us have to justify our ratings, but you have a reasoning. You kind of explained like your mindset as to why you feel this is a 1-star movie. Yeah, I totally get it.
You know what I mean?
And I agree. I totally agree with what you don't like about it. I think you're right. It just, obviously doesn't hit my opinion of this as strongly as it does yours.
And that's the beautiful thing about podcasting and reviewing a movie, isn't it? You can have a difference of opinion.
It's a wonderful thing.
That's a wonderful thing. I love it.
So, Jordan, the movie studios, they really want to cash in on some cute little creatures because Baby Yoda's been blowing up the internet. But also, Stranger Things and It has done pretty well. So they also want to capture that whole thing before the 80s nostalgia wave is totally gone, which is pretty much is by. How would you combine Gremlins and the Critters into one cinematic universe. I lost steam there at the end, but that's fine.
Well, I would definitely have Gizmo be the mother of the Critters.
Oh, okay. I like that.
We don't know if Gizmo's a boy or a girl.
No, that's true.
We don't know. So Gizmo is the mother. And the reason why Gizmo doesn't want the Gremlins to happen is because they will build a beacon in Madison Square Garden, a la Godzilla to 1998. And the beacon will send the Critters from space to overthrow Manhattan.
I like that.
Let's get ridiculous like Critters didn't do.
So, yeah, I mean, I picture The Rock in one of these various sequels fighting against the space invasion of critter creatures.
The Rock and Jack Black have to be together.
Dude, you're right. Now that's the right tone for what that movie would be. You're right.
Jack Black's the mayor, and The Rock is a police officer that's like 4 weeks away from retirement. And when the Critters come from outer space, I'm only 4 weeks away from retirement.
So are we gonna kill The Rock off in this?
I mean, like,
if he's 4 weeks from retirement, like, you kind of have to.
We need to age him like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon, and we need to think that he dies. Like, you know, like there needs to be a scene in the movie where there has to be a scene where like the Critters are completely like on top of him, and you can't see him, and all you can hear is the screams. So then the last 30 minutes of the movie, we got these young punk kids that they will never act again after this movie. And then all of a sudden, you know, like the last girl and the guy, you know, like they're falling in love. So like kind of like the boyfriend girlfriend type are like in a corner, and they cannot escape the Gremlins and the Critters together. The Rock comes in through the wall and just flamethrowers the shit out of them with like cuts all over him. And he's like, I told you I'll be back or something. And then
yeah,
like
some bad callback.
Yeah, just some terrible callback. And like Jack Black is like clapping his hands, you know, kind of Hercules in the background somewhere. That's how we would do this.
Dude, I love it. And you got it down. You got the cinematic universe pitch format. You got that going on.
Thank you.
So here's my setup. We're gonna go, you know, as so many of my pitches do. It actually starts with like a post-credits. What would be a post-credit scene to the original Gremlins is after what is his character's name?
Who? The dad, the son,
the old guy that they stole the Mogwai from.
Oh, you mean the racist, non-racist Asian guy?
Yeah.
Let's go,
Mr. Wing.
Mr. Wing,
because of course it is.
Jesus Christ.
Because of course it is.
Wow.
Well, that's okay. His grandson is a Chinese boy. He doesn't even get a name.
No, yeah, just straight Chinese boy. Yeah, that's total sense.
Mr. Wing. Okay, well, Mr. Wing at the end of Gremlins, he's coming, takes the Mogwai back and scolds the pretty much American culture for saying that, you know, you people aren't ready yet. That's his words, not mine. And wait, was he racist? Anyway,
he could be.
So, and then he walks off down the street, down a matte painting, and the first movie in the new franchise picks up basically there as he's walking off. What we didn't see at the end of Gremlins is him turn back into one of the faceless, green glowing faceless bounty hunter guys from Critters. And
good idea.
hop on his ship because, you know, he accidentally let that Mogwai get away and he's got to take it back because he's a bounty hunter. So yeah, anyway, that establishes Mogwai are not the same, but a similar kind of like race of creatures to the Critters. And on that ship, there are also some like locked away critters, and they get loose. Gizmo gets wet somehow, and I want a Critters versus Gremlins movie. So it's gonna be like you know, we'll call it a CVG. None of those are catchy.
No. No. The first one was good. The first one was good for what you're gonna go with. Let's go with it. G versus C.
G
Got
for GVC,
GVC.
Donna Fur. And
There you go.
Unfortunately, this bounty hunter doesn't get too far out of the atmosphere before like things go down on the ship. The ship lands, and we get GVC. Whoever wins, we lose.
There you go.
Because that is the best/worst movie tagline of all time. So,
can Lance Hendrickson be in this for absolutely no reason, like it was with AVP?
Yes. In fact, he has to be. I don't think he has any tie to either franchise, but I want him in it.
No, yeah, right. Like, have him come in and like all like old and breathing heavily, because of his years of hardcore smoking and drinking. And he like somehow wait. He's like the CEO of a company. He's the CEO of the office building from the second one.
Yeah, we could tie that into there.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Because, we can't place this, at least this first movie, back in some boring rural little town. This is 2019. We're going to New York. Or let's get crazy.
Let's go New Orleans. A little bit smaller, but the Gremlins and the Critters are bringing the party to New Orleans because, the bar scene.
Oh, I didn't even think about the partying because that's really what it would be. Their fighting would. Oh my God, you're right.
They would
for
do
Mardi
that.
Gras.
Yeah, no, that'd be exactly right. And then Lance Hendrickson will pump in, and we're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I was just fighting this giant thing, pumpkin head thing, and where am I?"
And we're bringing back every celebrity that got their start in these movies because there are quite a few. The first Gremlins, obvious. I know Phoebe Cates isn't really doing much, but we're bringing her back because I want to see her again.
Back.
She's 56. I looked it up. I don't care. I want to see her again. And Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman has to bring Corey Feldman and the Angels into this. Have you seen that YouTube clip?
Is that where he's dancing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. I've seen it.
So him and the Angels come in.
So he's going to be the big rock star pop singer that one of the bounty hunters that's inevitably going to come back into this movie emulates as he's landing. So
yes.
So he'll be we'll have him as Corey Feldman and as one of the bounty hunters.
Right. There you go. That's it. D. Wallace is here.
Yep. D. Wallace, Dick Miller. I'm pretty sure. Listen, they're CGIing actors now, so it doesn't matter if they're still around. Like M. Emmett Walsh, bring him back. He's from the Critters movie. And then we're gonna reach out. We're gonna get who was it? DiCaprio. We're gonna pull him in there because we're putting studio money into this. This is gonna be a big budget.
I want DiCaprio as Candy from Django.
Of course.
Because that sweet, innocent child grows up to be a racist plantation owner. Different decade, but we're going to go there.
Who else was... Okay, he was in Critters 3, and there was somebody else in that movie, very notable. Where'd she go? Maybe it wasn't that one. Maybe it was like Critters 4 or something. Brad Dourif was in Critters 4.
Okay, great, perfect. Brad Dourif is like, hey, is this a Blade movie? Or is this Critters? And like have him in perfect.
Angela Bassett, that was another one. She was in Critters 4.
Oh, off. Really?
Yeah.
Oh God, okay. So she's gonna be like the Ripley character then. I've been here before. Don't trust him.
The Critters series is kind of fascinating because the goofy, like, alcoholic, aliens are real, I hear them in the fillings of my teeth character becomes like a staple of the franchise. He's in every movie.
Yeah. God, my God. I don't know which one's better. I mean, like, these are both what Critters should have been. So, wow.
Eventually, we get the offspring of a critter and gremlin, and it's going to be...
Oh, thank you.
Simultaneously cute and horrifying.
Bigger, though? Taller? Like size of a human, maybe?
They really shouldn't be, but they will be because this is a big-budget movie, and we're talking Godzilla. Eventually, this is going to collide into the King Kong Godzilla universe that they've been slowly kind of putting together.
Yeah, please don't do that.
It's going to happen.
God, because King of the Monsters was shit.
I love that our movie scripts, for the most part, this is consistent through the entirety of this podcast series, are rambling, like if you wrote it down, 3-paragraph descriptions of what 5 movies could maybe be.
Right? I mean, right here, this is what you got to make, right?
Hey, I think we put more work into it than WB executives put into some of their plans.
We put more work into it than majority of the studios that Disney hasn't bought yet planned.
Man, I think we nailed this Critters Gremlins pitches.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, I had a great time with this discussion. Really, it's nice to meet you. Like we've talked a bit online, but it was nice to actually be able to talk movies with you. It's been awesome.
Yeah, sure, man. Definitely had a great time. I always love talking about movies with anybody. This is great. I'm having a great time.
All right. Well, hey, where can people find you? Where can they hear more of you?
Well, of course, besides EMC, the greatest podcast network ever, you can check us out at movieguyspodcast.podbean.com, on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, all social medias. Just search for Movie Guys Podcast. We're the logo with the popcorn and the headphones. And also on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher, on iTunes, or what they call Apple Podcasts now. So search all those major platforms for Movie Guys Podcast. You can find us. And again, we are just your brand new movie of the week review that is coming out. So if you are interested in seeing a movie with your significant other, I guess we're the show to listen to see if it's good or not.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. And I am Randall Sylvie. You can find me on Twitter at Randall Sylvie. It's Randall with 1 L. Or go to randallsylvie.com. Check out whatever that's got a list of the various podcasts I've been involved in. And of course, this is Grawlix Cinematic Universe on Twitter at GCU Podcast. Go to grawlixpodcast.com, GRAWLIX podcast.com to hear more or find more of these episodes. Basically, all the places he just said. So subscribe to their show and then look us up. Although I don't know if you're really listening this far into this episode if you don't know who we are. And have happy holidays, everybody. And Jordan, once again, thanks again for joining us. It's been great.
Oh, no problem, man. Anytime. Thank you. I'd love to come back in the future.
I love the tangents, and I quite enjoyed the vast. It's not vast, but the difference of opinions on the Critters rating. Man, that's awesome.
I am definitely known for being opinionated. Yeah. It's all human characters in a fucking submarine for an hour and a half. And then Godzilla shows up.
Did they not have a budget? Because that's usually what happens when they don't have budgets.
No, they had a budget. They just try to make it realistic.
Because did they
Just